Building habits is one of the hardest things to do, even when you do it like almost every day. I've been doing it a lot lately, but since Friday, I've noticed that I have come to sort of a standstill, as in, I want to come up with the ideas, I can feel the ideas, they're so tangible, but then getting them on video or writing them down. Oh my God, that's a whole different ball game. So the way my brain thinks is like I'm visualizing a lot of things. So it's not that I work like with words, but more like with images. So what I usually do is I describe the images which are in my mind. And if I'm lucky, I can translate them into frameworks and show those frameworks to you. Now, recently, I had to do my accountancy, quarterly taxes, VAT, all those kind of things. And when I recorded a video about it earlier today and I wrote a blog post about it, I didn't want to describe the process behind the quarterly tax results. It was about the process, and I didn't want to describe the process in detail. What I wanted to get across was how, for me, working on this consistently, because I have to do it every 3 months, actually helped me to perfect the process. And, well, people say practice makes perfect, which was something I posted yesterday. I posted, instead of practice makes perfect, I said something along the lines of practice makes things go smoother. And what I wanted, and still want, is to get that part out to you. Because what I want to say is there's no such thing as perfection. And if you want to perfect the process, of course, it can be done. But the question is, first of all, how long is it going to take you? And second of all, what's the use? So why would you spend so much time and energy on really perfecting something? And the question is, next to that other question, like, can't you use your energy in a better way? So you still make the process work better, smoother, but you take a different aspect of that process into consideration. And I guess that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about all the different aspects surrounding the whole process of getting the quarterly things done, the numbers out there related to invoices and purchases and all those kind of things. So at first I was talking about one specific center point. So everything has to, they have to be able to check everything, what comes out in, what goes out. So preferably there's one account. And well, I've been working towards that. But you know, nowadays it is a little bit challenging. Yeah, it's kind of late, but I wanted to get this video out there. So I'm just continuing on, but if you hear me stuttering or having a little bit more difficulty with my words, it's because I'm doing my best here to get it out here because I'm passionate about what I'm telling you. So it was about the core, about the essence, like, okay, so what I know to be true is everything has to be related to the bank account. So what goes in, what comes out, PayPal, credit card, back in the days even cash, all related to the bank account. Now, of course, we know that people used to have cash and which never made it to the bank account, so it was never in the books. But you get my drift, right? And what I've noticed is there are a lot of apps and systems helping us nowadays, like PayPal, for instance. But PayPal has the annoying habit of taking certain things from certain accounts. And for the life of me, I cannot seem to change it. So when it's incidental, I can do it, but when it's like permanent or fixed, it's a little bit harder. There's probably a trick to it, but I haven't discovered it yet. Anyway, I have become better at figuring out, so how do I show which things on the private account are actually meant for on the business account, and which things on the business account are actually meant to be private. And PayPal just makes one big pile of it. So how do I do that as well? And I've come up with certain search engines, well, more like terms that I use. And well, a lot of it is because I order a lot of stuff using apps on my phone. So that's related to Apple, which makes things a lot easier. So there are some words I look for, some words like Apple, for instance. I look for it in my email. I look for it in PayPal, and then also, of course, the bank records, and that makes a whole bunch of difference. But what I wanted to say is I've slowly learned not to perfect the system, but it gets easier. And the surprise for me was when I was like, okay, I need to do it. When I'm going to start, well, this weekend, because, there was Friday Night Live and there are the physical therapists and other things were going on. So I was like, okay, I need to start doing it in the weekend. And then on Monday afternoon, which was for me straight away after getting up, which was today, I had to get it out there. And I was like, am I going to make it? And I was quite certain I could. So I did myself a favor. I already printed certain invoices and collected all the other stuff and put it like in a folder. I actually print everything and then write down codes. So it's a manual labor of, well, I'm not sure if it's a labor of love, but it's some work. I'll admit to that one. So knowing what the hassle is and has been in the past, I've come up with certain tricks. So things which are repetitive, but which need to be in there, I already make copies of it. When things are coming from a certain supplier and it's every month there is an invoice, I print those and already put the code on there. And I've noticed that I am not sure if the word is internalizing certain processes, but becoming aware of like, okay, this is how I need to do it. So yeah, probably internalizing because I know how to do it. It's it's like gathering all those tiny little things, all these tiny little processes, and then combining them into one. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Is it easier? Absolutely. Is it a lot smoother? Yes. And I think that the one thing that I wanted to get across, and which I can get across now, is about how when we turn and tweak certain things, certain parts of the whole system, and we add to those, that all of a sudden the everything seems to work more efficiently, and it's getting easier. I mean, right up till using the printer. So if I use the printer using my phone, it takes forever and I have to switch between networks and everything. But when I used either my notebook or my iPad, it actually goes straight away. Don't ask me why, but it does. And I'm like, well, they're connected to the same network, so what? But, well, and those are the little things that I needed to find out. And having been more efficient with it, realizing, okay, this is what matters, this is what doesn't matter. So those are things which come into play too. What things do I actually want to put in there, and which things do I not want to have in there? I'm getting a better understanding of how to do it quicker, more efficiently, and without less of a headache. Let's put it that way. So basically, and that's kind of funny, because if you look at the numbers of papers that's actually printed, it gets reduced with every quarter. And it's like it's similar to the amount of energy that I'm spending on everything and how much smoother everything goes. So basically, the question that I have got for you is, when you are working on something, so let's call that a process. The process consists of all these little parts, and every part has its own function and needs tweaking and changing. So what do you do in order to make all those parts work as efficiently as possible? And how do you decide what to add or to delete from the whole process? What's important and what's not? And what is that core thing, what it's all about? That's, of course, the question. And well, there are certain overviews that I always have to create and print when getting that ordner to the accountant. And well, the thing was that normally I would do that probably last, and now I actually did it first, and it made so much difference. And it's that one sheet that actually says this is the amount that I have earned, and this is how much of it is VAT, so VAT, so the part of the taxes which varies whether it's food or whether it's certain services or books or whatever it is. And for me, it's mostly the same, by the way, so that's kind of easy. But that part I need to give back to the state. And then, of course, when I've bought something and there's VAT on there too, VAT, then I get it back. So they balance it, and then, well, usually I have to pay. And I never thought that just by getting that one sheet out there, which shows my invoices, what I got out there was my tax, which I had to include, that overview, that it actually creates a point of, calm. And, it felt quite good to actually see it, and then realize that it was the main structure of everything related to what's going on in the bank account, because that's basically my income. And, well, when we look at processes and things we want to achieve, we need to figure out what is that main thing that needs to be done first. What's the most essential part? And if we work from that part, we can also see what we need to change. So one of the things that I've been working on lately is getting stuff out there on social media, getting the courses out there, making sure people can subscribe to the pages, getting blog posts out there. And it's all related to what I want, and which is working on a legacy, getting people to communicate better, as in people being heard, seen, and understood by others. So on one hand, people are being understood, and on the other hand, there are people who have a better understanding of what's going on the other end. And It's funny because I've been thinking about it for a couple of hours now, on and off. Like I said, I wrote about it, I recorded a video, I actually sent it to some people, and then I was walking around and I was like, I want it differently. And I think I got to the core of what it is that I wanted to express. And tomorrow, when I'll be teaching, I'll be getting back into what I now call this framework. So later on, I'm going to write down all those little things, make sure that the blog post about it gets into the process of how I got to talk about this. Because what it started out with was I wanted to get something across. It was tangible. And just like Friday Night Live, I was late last Friday because I could feel it, I could touch it, I could see it, but I didn't know specifically how to get it across. It was like there were all these bits and pieces and they hadn't found their right place yet in the whole system. Now, like I said, there's no such thing as perfection, or at least there doesn't have to be such thing as perfection when it comes to this, but it does have to make sense. So maybe I can swap it around in different orders and they all make sense. Well, if they all make sense, that's good, but they have to make sense. And in this case, my goal was to actually get across like, hey, how does that work when you know there's something out there that you know makes sense, that you know will help other people? But it's about, okay, how can I make this so other people can actually understand what's going on inside my mind? And do I actually understand what's going on in my mind? And well, the first thing I normally do is write things down and then try to make it, yes, into a framework. So you can actually look at it and, turn around from all angles. And then it's like, oh yeah, of course. So if we talk about this, we are talking about this. And if we do that, that has an effect on. And well, that way, all of a sudden, things make sense again. And I guess that's how frameworks come into existence. Anyway, today is about Monday Motivational Messages. Now, why is this motivational? Not because I want to explain this whole framework, but to tell you like, hey, this is not about perfection. This is about, hey, I want to get something out there. I know which elements need to be in there, and I need to learn what to tweak and change. So I'm saying this in general. And when you do, and you keep going at it consistently, then you will see improvement at some point. And it's about continuing on, even if you do it from a different angle, and not giving up, which helps you the most. And of course, your brain knows that you're working on it, so that's a boost for the brain. You are creating different neural pathways because you are coming up with something. You're trying to link one to the other. So just by figuring out a new route, there's already a lot going on. And when you actually then get it out there, so like I'm talking to you, well, that's of course a new thing. So by doing this more often, also explaining when I'm in knots up there in my brain, it actually tells you something. And it tells my brain something because I know that eventually I'll be able to work it out. And had I left it the way it was, then, then basically I tell myself I'm not finishing anything. Oh, when I'm going haywire, then it stops. So if there's one message I want to give to you today, a motivational message, it's when you work on something, it might cost energy and you might be like, oh, what am I doing it for? But remember that the more you work on it, the easier it gets. That's one. And the other one is you train your brain. And that's so important, that we keep training our brain, keep doing new things, keep learning new things. That's how we keep a healthy mind. Of course, circumstances are always there, but if we don't take those into consideration, it's actually pretty good to have our brain work hard for us every once in a while. So make sure that you do something that's worthwhile, that you consider interesting, and which helps you down the road when it's more efficient and more fluent. And next, feel good about it. And I can tell you, I sure feel good about this because I know I've done it. And yes, that feels mighty good. Want to see more Monday morning messages? Then click here, go there. Yes, right there.